Hi, so our Sony 55-inch TV has started acting up. It keeps switching itself off and we get a red flashing light on it. It's only started doing this last night, so I think I'm going to have to take it apart and have a look at it. It actually seems to stay on for about 2 hours from cold, and then it starts acting itself. So I'll wait till the fault happens and then I'll start recording again from there. So the TV's just switched itself off. I've just switched it back on there. Let's just trying to boot up. Let's just see how far it gets. Oh, there we go. I'm just got a red light flashing there now. I think it blinks 6 times. And then that's it. Sometimes it'll let you switch it back on. Sometimes it won't. Oh, so now it's not switching back on either. So that's the fault. So let's take it apart and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it. Right, I've got it lying on the floor. And it looks like we've got a number of screws to remove. One here, one here, one here, and a couple along there. And there's 4 around the back of it. Looks like for a stand or something, or a wall mount bracket. And it looks like we've got a screw under this little flap here, which I think is for something like a CI module. Right, I'll get some screwdrivers and we'll whip the back off. So one thing I've just discovered is there's some little clips down here that you've actually got to pull forward. They pop forward like that, which unlocks the back. Right, I've done the same at the other side, so let's see if the back wants to come off now. That's caught on the power lead and you've got to pass this thing through. You should put the cable through as well, I think. Right, see if the back wants to come off now then. Right, so let's have a look over what we've got inside of here then. So this is the main power supply. It's quite big. This is the main control board over here. And then we've got a couple of cables go across to the front panel display. And I guess that's the Wi-Fi connector there, or the Wi-Fi board. And then we've got the T-Con board here, which controls the actual LCD. And that goes back to the main board over there. I noticed there's a couple of big resistors here. I was wondering what are they for, but it looks like they go to the tweeters. Because we've got a little tweeter over here. And another little tweeter over there. And that goes back to this connector here, which also goes over to the 2 speakers, which are just down here and down here. Now I know one thing that can cause this error is problems with the backlight. And if we just look down here, we've got backlight on and backlight error, which is an error signal that gets sent back to the main board over here. But I don't think that would cause it. Sometimes what was happening as well, the TV was freezing and you had to switch it off and switch it on for it to continue working. So I'm wondering whether it could be something like a backlight issue, or whether it's something like capacitors not regulating the power supply correctly to the main board over here. So I just thought I'd double check to see if the backlight is the problem on this. So it's actually on at the moment. If I just go on to ground here, and the 4th pin down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, this pin here is the backlight error pin, and that's supposed to be grounded, which it is. So let's wait until it starts switching itself off again, and then we'll measure this pin again and we'll see if we get an error signal on it. which should be 3 volts if it detects an error. And then that means it's either a problem with the backlights themselves or something to do with this driver section here. One thing I have noticed, you get a sort of a whine from this power supply. I don't know if you can hear that. It doesn't seem to be doing it all of the time though. I just thought I'd try heating the board up with a hairdryer just to see if there's any thermal things like a capacitor or something that when it gets hot is causing it to shut down. So let's give this a go. Appears not. It still seems to be running quite happily there. You can see the little backlights lit up through the casing here. Let's just try heating the other board up, see if that makes any difference. And no, it still seems to be lit up and switched on there at the moment. But it seems strange how it'll work for like 2 hours before it's showing a problem. So I'm just wondering if it's something like maybe one of the bond wires in one of the LED strips. But I mean, it switches straight back on and the screen lights up fully, so I'm a bit confused over this one. Right, I'm just going to try and measure the LED error signal. Ah, typical. See if it'll switch on again. There we go. Right, that's gone up to 3.2 volts. So, it could be a problem with the LEDs. But I think first I'm going to have a look over the LED driver board just to see if I can see any dry joints or anything on that. Because all the LEDs look lit up. It doesn't look like there's any dark spots on the picture or anything. So I'm not sure what the problem actually is. It could be sort of one of the LEDs failing, but there's no flickering or anything. So let's get this board on the blue mat and we'll have a look at it. Right, I've unplugged it from the mains. Let's just get this wire unplugged here. This connector. And these go to the LED backlights. This goes to the main control board. Looks like there's 9 screws holding the board in. And hopefully that should be the board free to come out now. Right, got the board on the bench. And I've just been having a quick look over it here. This section here, this seems to be the little standby power supply, which gives the 3 volts to the main board. And when you press the remote, there's a relay at the top here which then engages the main power supply. We've got a bridge rectifier here. And that looks like an inductor for power factor correction around here. These are probably the main switch and MOSFETs for this transformer here, and that looks to be the mains input. Then we've got all these outputs on either side. So this part here seems to be the 12 volt output that goes to the main board and pretty much powers the whole thing up. And that's regulated down by little regulators on the main board itself. And then we've got this section up here, which seems to be the LED driver. It looks like we've got some kind of custom module here with the big heatsink on. The heatsink's actually screwed into the module. You can just see one of the screws there. And that's soldered onto the board by this header connector here. And another one on that side. So to have a look at that, you'd have to unsolder it. So we've got a few capacitors we can check. So I might check those with the Peak Atlas ESR70 Gold. And then I might have a look around the back of the board for dry joints, because I'm sure there's some MOSFETs and things on the back of the board as well that seem to go to the LEDs. Right, let's see what these capacitors measure. Let's see if they're okay. Right, so we've got two here which are wired in parallel. And the ESR doesn't look too bad, and we've got about 66 microfarads. And those are 33 microfarads each. So let's have a look at the other ones up this side. And again, about the same. I've got another two just down here. So across this part here. Let's just check those. And again, the SR doesn't look too bad. We've got 163 microfarads. Can't quite see what those ones are. Yeah, so they, I think it's 82 microfarads it says there. So two of them are parallel, will be about 164, which is about right. So the capacitors seem okay. I think I'll get it under the microscope. I'll have a look for dry joints around here next. Right, got it under the microscope. And it does, like, there's a couple of joints that look a bit dry. Like that one there, maybe. There's a couple of these MOSFETs. Maybe don't look the best either. It's a bit hard to tell at times because of the light glare off the microscope. But yeah, there is a few that look potentially. Let's touch some of these up and then we'll see if it makes any difference. I'll touch these MOSFETs up, I'll just put a bit of flux on them first. I'll just do the other sides of these first. I know those two pins are joined together, but they're all joined together in anyway on the PCB. Right, let's do the other four. Looks like possibly another one there. I'm just going to put a bit of flux on that one because it's a bit of a mess, that one. Looks like there's a couple even more down the bottom there. I'll just move the microscope over slightly. Looks like there might be a couple there as well. Just here and here. Well, I think that looks a bit better. I don't know if it's made any difference or not though, but So curiosity got the better of us and I thought I'd remove this module here, so I've just finished the soldering it. That's it there. So it looks like we've got a couple of Phillips screws on there. I'll just go and grab a screwdriver. I think there's a chip under here. It's kind of stuck on with some thermal compound or a thermal pad. I'm not sure if that's going to come off without breaking it. Yeah, it's quite on there, that. I was curious to see what chip it was under here, but I think it's kind of glued on or something. Well, it was worth a look. Well, I refitted the board after doing the dry joints and that stuff, and it hasn't really made any difference. It's still cutting out after around about 10 minutes. So what I thought I'd try is what other people have done, just to rule out if it is a problem with the backlight or not, is this is the BLERR signal, a backlight error signal. So what I've done, I've just snipped the wire that comes from this board, just here. It's actually the 4th pin along on the top here, pin number 8. And I've connected it to the next wire along, which is the ground wire there. So that means that this is always being pulled low, so it's not indicating an error condition. So we'll try it like that and see how it goes. Well, the TV's been running for about 4 or 5 hours now and it hasn't switched off. I can't see any signs of any LEDs being out or flickering or anything. There is a couple of slight dark patches just at the very bottom here. There's one about there, one about here, one about here, and one about there. Now what they're to do with, they're to do with smoke in the room, because we've got a log burner which is just over here. What happens is sometimes we'll get smoke in the room and obviously it gets into the screen and that and stuff. So you can also see the same smoke marks on the inside of the cabinet here, like over here and over here. But the screen's lit up evenly. I can't see any bright spots or any dark spots or anything on it. So whether or not it's actually a problem with the LEDs or not is another thing. Right, so I figured out how to get it into diagnostic mode. So what you've got to do, you've got to switch the set off and have it in standby mode first. Press the info button, number 5, volume down, in that order, and then switch the set on. And hopefully, it took me a few times to actually get it to work, you'll end up with a screen like this. And what all the different numbers mean is we've got at the bottom left here, that's the total operation of the set in hours. That's how many hours the set's been used. Then the next number here, we've got the boot count, so it's been switched on 1091 times. The next number, the 23672, that's the number of hours that the panel's been used, or the LCD panel itself and the backlights. And then up here, we've got the errors that have occurred. And most of these numbers are zeros, apart from the number 6 there, which indicates how many times that the error light flashes, the error LED. So that says backlight error. And then we've got the date, which is the year, 25, then the month, 08, 23, and then the time, 1941 and 24 seconds. So then we've got the dates of the errors, and it keeps the log of the last 3. And then here we've got the total number of times the error has occurred. So it's occurred 39 times on this set. So I just thought you might find that a bit interesting. So the TV's been working fine for the last few days. We haven't had any problems with it. It hasn't gone off anymore. The red light hasn't came on. There's no dark spots or light spots on the backlight. But I still suspect it is a problem with the actual backlights themselves. Now I did see on a video on YouTube that somebody else had a similar problem, and there was a tiny little diode on one of the strips had fallen off. And that's what was causing the controller to think there was a problem with the LEDs. So the LEDs themselves might actually be alright, but to inspect the strips, you've got to strip down the whole display, take the thin film glass off the front of it, then the polarizers, to actually access the LED strips. Now I have done this before on a smaller TV, but not the 65-inch one. So I'm a bit wary of doing that, because you also risk cracking the screen. And because it's working currently at the moment, I'm probably just going to run it the way it is until the LEDs fail completely, because they're going to need replaced in any case. So if they fail completely, well, I'm going to have to do that in any case if I decide to go ahead with repairing it. And whether or not I can actually get the replacement LED strips that are of decent quality is another thing, because I know you can get them on AliExpress and stuff, but I've read also that they only last about a year, so you know, we'll see how it goes. So I know it's not a true fix, because we actually haven't fixed the underlying problem, so this is more of a workaround or a hack rather than an actual fix. But I suppose the TV is working and it wasn't working before, so do you consider it a fix or not? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.